come over up this side, please.
You let us know we're here.
Bring the baby and mom in, please.
Baby, no on?
Okay.
Get out of the
Okay, and would you have those two over here, please? Okay. Thank you for looking out for us. We appreciate it. All right, come right over, please. Okay. All right.
Just be careful. Watch your step.
Turn to the camera. Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for being here. As you can see, we're quite excited because we have had Jaime to return home to his family, and the family is excited about it. So let us start with the celebratory mood. All right, thank you. Friends, this case is an exemplar, if you will. It is an exemplary example of why we need comprehensive immigration reform. It's such because this is about more than the border and what's happening at the border. This case gives us reason to understand that there are families that are involved and families are suffering. This case allowed us, as a result of Mr. Avalos being banned from the country for some 10 years, allowed us to reunite a father with his child, baby Noah, a husband with his wife, Yoriana, and a mother with her son. So it's about more than simply saying we need a wall or there's a border that has problems. It's about families within the country who need help as well. Briefly, Mr. Avalos was a person who was law-abiding. He decided that he was going to do the right thing. He was going to go to the consulate in Mexico on advice of a lawyer, had an appointment, and this was to be a turnaround trip. He was going there simply to ask for permission to return to the country with a proper visa. It was discovered that he had been brought into the country at the age of about 7 years, and as a result of having been brought into the country, Mexico, from the United States at the age of 7 years, he was banned from coming back into the country because his initial entry into this country occurred when he was at about the age of 1. His mother brought him here out of love for her son and other reasons as well. Took him back to register his adoption. Well, that created a serious issue for us. And when it was called to my attention, their lawyer, who is here today, who has done an outstanding job in representing this family, Attorney Salim, I think she deserves an expression of love. Would you please, Attorney Salim? The lawyer helped me to better understand, quite frankly, the circumstance. And it had to be explained to me multiple times because it was hard to believe the facts. It was difficult for me to comprehend that he was being barred from the country because his mother took him out of this country to register his adoption. And by the way, it wasn't just difficult for me. When I explained this to many other people, they too had difficulty comprehending that these were the facts. But we persisted with explaining and making sure people understood the facts. I've gone to the consulate there in Juarez, Mexico twice. We were there on yesterday, and I want to compliment the consular and the consul general, those persons who are there, are part of the consular corps, for the outstanding work that they've done to help us with this cause. I want to thank the Secretary of State and the persons represented in that office, the persons who are associated with the Department of Homeland Security, but I especially want to thank the Biden administration because President Biden had nothing to do with the law that we are having to deal with, but he has done a lot to help people who have found themselves in awkward circumstances. So we want to thank President Biden today. Would you please, let's give President Biden a big expression for what he has done and what his administration has done to help with this family. So here we are. We have a family that's been reunited after some 6 months of being separated, a family that has suffered over this 6-month period because Yariana, the mother of baby Noah, could not sustain the family with her income alone. Even though she had help from her mother, who was the best babysitter she could possibly have, it just wasn't enough. Mom had to do some things. So they had some difficult times, but they did make it through it, and we are proud that they are now reunited. And I will close with these things. Probably the thing that touched my heart the most about this were these things. The first was seeing baby Noah when we crossed that bridge going into Mexico, and he saw his father and the way he embraced his father. It warms your heart to see a child so engaged that that child recognizes the father immediately. Now, he's been separated from his father more than he's been with him. So this affords us the opportunity to have baby Noah in his father's, be with his father and have this baby cared for by mom and dad. As you can see, he's quite active. He likes to make his points, and he makes them very well. But it's a wonderful thing to know that Mr. Avalos is going to be in his child's life, be present with his child. And then there's one final thing that really touched me. When we appeared here in Houston last night, Jaime's mother gave me a hug that only a mother can give. If you've ever had that special hug that a mother can give when she's pleased about a circumstance, she's joyous, she's happy that something has happened that is meaningful to her as it relates to her child or her children, this was the hug that I received. And I will never forget that hug. I remember how my mother hugged me. And Miss, I want you to know, ma'am, that it touched my heart to have you give your hug and your expression. So if I may, I don't know whether this is going to do it, but we were hoping that this might be something that baby Noah might appreciate. Well, there you have it. Okay. So I'm going to ask the first person to speak to be the mother. I think the mother, she's going to be brief. I know she's not expecting to make any kind of long statement, but I want her to come over because this is about more than Jaime. It's about a family, and the root of this family is Mom. So Mom, would you come over, please? Give her a hand as she comes over, please.
Mil disculpas, no sé muy bien hablar. Yo lo único que quiero decir es muchas gracias por lo que hicieron por mi hijo. Lo traje de 1 año de edad, hace 27 años, y no se me hacía justo lo que hicieron por él. Y primero, gracias a Dios que me escuchó, que me ayudó para volverlo a traer de regreso. Y gracias a Dios que me puso 2 ángeles que me ayudaron. Porque mucho busqué y no encontraba, hasta que encontré yo a la abogada. Y le di gracias a Dios por haberle encontrado y por haberme escuchado. Muchas gracias al congresista por lo que hizo por mis hijos. ¿Qué más les puedo decir? Gracias, 1000 gracias, y que Dios se los pague por todo lo que han hecho por mi hijo. Así que... Gracias. 1000 gracias. Porque este ha sido mi tesoro. Durante 28 años que he luchado por él. Mi esposo y yo. Porque porque somos los únicos que hemos estado con él en este país, y fue mi primer nieto. Gracias a mi nuera, que ha luchado junto con todos ellos. Gracias a todos ustedes. Que Dios se lo pague, porque yo no tengo cómo pagárselos. Gracias.
And now we will ask the family lawyer to give a translation and also to give comments about the case itself, if you would. Give her a big hand, please. Attorney Salim.
Buenos días a todos. Ya el congresista hizo un recuento perfecto de lo que sucedió en el caso de Jaime, pero ahora yo se los puedo decir en español para los canales que están aquí en español. Lo que sucede con Jaime, como muy bien lo dijo el congresista Al Green, es algo que es difícil de que las personas entiendan, porque él nunca ha cometido un delito. Él está casado con una ciudadana americana, él tiene un hijo ciudadano americano, él ha vivido toda su vida aquí desde que tiene 1 año. Lo único que lo previene a él que le impide que él pueda tener su residencia permanente en los Estados Unidos es que tuvo una salida por menos de 1 semana cuando tenía 7 años de edad. Esa es la única razón por la cual él no puede tener su residencia permanente, y que el gobierno de los Estados Unidos, según la ley de inmigración, le dijo que tenía que estar 10 años fuera de este país, sin ningún recurso. No hay un perdón para este castigo de los 10 años. Así que obviamente necesitamos reforma migratoria integral. Esto es algo que se tiene que resolver, pero todavía no lo hemos logrado. Una de las cosas que ha hecho el congresista Al Green para ayudarnos con este caso es que introdujo una ley en el Congreso para cambiarla. Pero hasta ahora, pues lo que pudimos lograr, que es algo grande, importante, estamos muy felices por eso, es poder traer a Jaime a reunificarse, a reunirse con su familia. Pero este es solo el primer paso. Estamos contentos porque esta familia está unida como debe ser. Jaime está en los Estados Unidos, que es el único lugar que él ha conocido como su hogar por toda su vida. Como yo siempre he dicho, él es un americano sin tener un documento que lo diga, pero este es el único lugar que él conoce como suyo. Pero la batalla no ha terminado aquí. Ahora tenemos que buscar la manera de que Jaime pueda quedarse aquí en los Estados Unidos permanentemente, específicamente con una residencia permanente y eventualmente la ciudadanía americana, porque es lo que él merece. Así que no vamos a parar aquí. Pero además de hablarles del caso, yo les quiero dar las gracias a muchas personas en el día de hoy. Yo quiero agradecer a la mamá de Jaime y a su esposa Yariana por darme la confianza y creer en mí, y me dieron esta tarea, y gracias a Dios pues ayer vimos cumplido este cometido que teníamos de traer a Jaime y unir a la familia. Aparte de eso, le quiero dar las gracias. Sinceramente, yo estoy muy honrada, muy orgullosa y muy agradecida del congresista Al Green, porque yo pude ver de primera mano lo fuerte que él ha estado trabajando por esta familia. A veces estamos trabajando hasta muy tarde en la noche, y en la mañana ya el congresista me estaba escribiendo, me estaba llamando para decirme qué más íbamos a hacer para poder ayudar a Jaime. No solo lo ayudó hablando en el Congreso incesantemente, sino que también fue a Juárez conmigo. Esta es la segunda vez que fuimos. Además de eso, ayudó a la familia a que se pudieran quedar en su hogar, y ayudó a Yariana también a que pudiera tener más acceso a su esposo en Juárez. Así que por eso estoy también muy agradecida, y sin olvidarnos de que sin la administración del presidente Biden no se hubiese podido cumplir esta tarea. Así que muchísimas gracias al gobierno de Biden por todo lo que han hecho hasta ahora por Jaime, y no descansaremos hasta que se continúe haciendo lo correcto para Jaime y para su familia.
There may be 1 or 2 people who don't understand Spanish listening today, so would you give us an English rendition of your thoughts? Okay.
Of course. So I briefly explained what happened with Jaime's case. Congressman Green did a beautiful explanation. Jaime has never committed a crime. There is nothing wrong about Jaime or his situation. The only thing is the law won't allow us to let him become a permanent resident. So we're working on that. But for now, we're here. We were able to get his humanitarian parole granted. So that's the first victory, but it's not the end of the road. Apart from that, I would like to thank Jaime's mother and Jaime's wife for trusting me to accomplish this today. Also, I would like to thank Congressman Al Green, who worked tirelessly to help me with the family reunification. And also, I would like to thank the Biden administration. Thank you for everything that you have done for our client, and I hope that you keep this going and we see Jaime with a permanent residency soon.
Thank you very much. And now we'd like to ask Ms. Avalos to have a word. Yariana has really been a trooper throughout this entire process, and I can never thank her enough for the patience that she has shown and her ability to maintain her family unit, notwithstanding the distance that separated her from her spouse, her husband. So if she comes, give her a hand, please.
Okay. Primero que nada le quiero dar gracias a todos por estar aquí, por escuchar nuestra historia y pues por siempre hablar de nuestra historia, y gracias a Dios estamos aquí hoy, y le quiero dar gracias al congresista y a nuestra abogada Jaime. Han sido un increíble equipo. Sin ellos no estuviéramos aquí, no pudiéramos estar haciendo la bienvenida a mi esposo Jaime, y estar unidos otra vez como familia es lo máximo y es todo lo que hemos querido. Ahora es nomás de seguir peleando y seguir teniendo esperanzas de que un día cambie las leyes inmigratorias para muchos que están en la misma situación. No somos los únicos. En este caso me he dado cuenta de que hay millones de personas que pasan esto diariamente, y pues es muy triste, pero tenemos esperanzas de que podamos ayudarles en tratar de cambiar la ley con la ley que ha pedido Congressman Al Green. So, primero que nada, pues gracias a todos, gracias por su apoyo de ellos, y sin ellos no estuviéramos aquí.
And give your English translation.
An English translation. Well, first and foremost, I want to give thanks to everybody for being here, for listening to our story, to making it be seen and heard and not go unseen. And because of you guys, everybody, spreading the word and awareness for us, we're here today being able to welcome my husband home. I wanted to thank Congressman Al Green personally for all his hard work, his incredible staff's hard work. If it wouldn't have been for them since the day one that they heard about our case, we probably wouldn't be here, as well as our attorney Naima and her incredible staff. We couldn't have found an amazing lawyer than attorney Naima, so 100% recommend, but we just wouldn't be here without them, and I'm very thankful for that. This is just the beginning of a big war, but you know, it's a big accomplishment for us, and we just hope to be able to help many others in the same situation with the bill Congressman Al Green is trying to pass for many others in the similar situation. And you know, the fight's not over, and we're gonna keep on fighting until Jaime becomes a resident and then a U.S. citizen, because that's what he needs, and that's what he deserves more than all. So thank you, everybody.
And now we will hear from Mr. Avalos, a person that I have really come to enjoy knowing, very reserved. He's not a person who is going to be boisterous. He's quite calm under most circumstances, and this was a time when patience was needed, and he had an abundance of patience. Mr. Avalos, if you would, please. Jaime, give him a hand, please.
Hola, muchas gracias tenerme aquí. Estoy bien agradecido con la abogada y el congresista que me ayudaron. Yo creía que ese fuera un sueño. Hicieron que nunca iba a regresar a Houston, hicieron que me iba a quedar en México por los 10 años de castigo. Pero estoy bien agradecido de la abogada y el congresista por es un buen equipo. Me trajeron en 6 meses, ya estoy aquí con mi bebé. Estoy bien agradecido. Estoy bien agradecido, estoy bien feliz. Volamos y lo sentía que era un sueño, pero ya cuando llegué a Houston era emociones, lágrimas, feliz a mirar a mi bebé, que no se me va a ir, o mi esposa se va a ir. Ahora ya aquí voy a estar cerca con ellos. I'm really grateful for for my lawyer and the congressman. They're the best team I could have ever had. I thought this was just a dream. I thought I was gonna stay in Mexico for the 10 years I was for the 10 years I was supposed to be. I'm really grateful. In 6 months, I came back home, and I'm really happy to see my wife and my kid, and knowing that I'm not gonna leave anytime soon. I'm really happy. As soon as we landed, I thought it was just a dream until I stepped foot in Houston, and it felt amazing. And I'm really, really thankful for the team that I have behind me.
And finally, we have a very dear friend of our community who has helped me in many causes. Some of you might remember that we had Mr. Escobar, who was detained, and we were able to bring him home as well. So Cesar Espinosa, would you give him a big hand, please?
Well, bueno, primero, antes que nada, le queremos agradecer al congresista Al Green por todo su liderazgo y su continuo apoyo con la comunidad inmigrante. Igual también queremos agradecer a la abogada Jaime porque es una de las pocas abogadas que conocemos que va a hablar con la verdad, pero va a hablar con una verdad justa y va a buscar la manera de poder solucionar algunas situaciones difíciles. Y terceramente, queremos darle un gran agradecimiento a la familia Avalos, porque mucha gente sufre en silencio. Mucha gente, cuando esto pasa, dicen, pues ya no hay nada que hacer. Fui con el abogado y me dijo que no, y no buscan otras soluciones y no buscan el luchar. Al igual que la familia Avalos, la familia Escobar, hace 15 años nosotros tocamos puertas y caímos aquí con la oficina del congresista Al Green, y él ayudó durante todo este proceso, incluyendo múltiples viajes a El Salvador para él personalmente regresar a José Escobar, y ahora la familia está viviendo ya su vida plena en los Estados Unidos, incluyendo la cuestión de que José este año o el año pasado ya está elegible para su ciudadanía. So es muy importante, muy bueno esto, porque estos actos, estos casos tienen un impacto muy grande en nuestra sociedad. Y cuando otras personas dicen que no se puede, el congresista Al Green y personas como Jaime dicen que sí se puede. Y cuando otras personas dicen que no lo vamos a hacer, ellos lo hacen. Y cuando otras personas dicen que no hay ya no hay alguna esperanza, la esperanza la vemos aquí con la familia Avalos. So I just want to first of all thank Congressman Al Green, because this is not the first time that he's done this. 15 years ago, we were knocking on doors looking for support for the Escobar family, and we landed here at Congressman Al Green's office because Jose was and continues to be his constituent. And we were here, and they graciously opened the door, and they helped for more than a decade in order to push, listen to Jose's case, and then push to get him back. Unfortunately, when he was deported, Congressman Al Green personally took multiple trips to El Salvador to make sure that Jose was okay and that he was able to come back. So we want to thank Congressman Al Green for his steadfast, and even though we wish that he didn't have to do these acts, he continues to do so because he believes in justice. We want to also thank the Avalos family for their steadfast support, because many families suffer in silence. Once they get a family member deported, they listen to other attorneys, they listen, and they lose hope, and they say there's nothing more that can be done. So we want to thank them for stepping up and advocating for Mr. Avalos to return home. And lastly, we want to thank Attorney Jaime Salem, because she talks to people not only with the truth, but with the truth of justice, because if there's something that can be done, she will do it, and we've been witness to that in not only this case, but in many other cases. When there's people out there that say we shouldn't, Congressman Al Green and people like Attorney Salem say we should. When there's people that say we can't, Congressman Al Green says yes, we can. And when there's people that say that all hope is lost, they remind us that we should be here to bring not only this family, but other families hope, and that there's something that can be done. Congressman Al Green shouldn't have to travel to Mexico or El Salvador to bring these folks back, but we are grateful that he does, and we hope that this is a measure, and we hope that this is also places hope so that we can finally push for an immigration reform so we don't have to be in this situation now 15 years from today. Thank you so much, Congressman Al Green. Thank you so much, Attorney Salem, and thank you so much for the Avalos family for going through this. Felicidades.
Well, thank you very much. We'll take questions after this final comment, and it is this. We need comprehensive immigration reform. It's time for us to decide that we can cooperate with each other in Congress. I'm a part of that Congress that needs to do this so that we can prevent this from happening to other families. And there are others who are similarly situated. This one is a little bit unique, but there are others similarly situated, and they too deserve some help. So we're going to push for comprehensive immigration reform, which is about more than what's happening at the border. It's about what's happening within our country as well to millions of people. With this said, we welcome any questions that you might have. Okay, we'll start here and we'll go clockwise around the room. Yes, please.
The humanitarian parole is granted for a temporary, it's granted on a temporary basis. So how long has it been granted for?
Okay, I'm going to ask this very fine lawyer to address this question.
Yes, Jaime's humanitarian parole was granted for 2 years.
Can you explain a little bit more about the parole, how it works, how it helps in this situation?
Okay, and after that, we're gonna go around the room clockwise, okay?
I was just piggybacking her.
You got it in. Okay, come on, let's do it.
A humanitarian parole is a mechanism that we use when there's nothing else that we can do to bring an immediate, well, someone immediately to the U.S. That parole grants them the authorization to stay in the U.S. for a certain period of time, in this case 2 years, and also will allow us to request or to apply for a work permit for Jaime.
And for additional edification, it's not something easily acquired. There are other cases where the law has exceptions, but in Jaime's case, there was no exception to the law that barred him from the country, and this was the last resort and our last hope. And there are many people who do not benefit from this type of parole because you have to show that there's a hardship, and this family has suffered that hardship. We were able to display this, but more importantly, we had an administration that was willing to listen. I can't speak for other administrations, but I can say that the Biden administration has listened and cares about the plight of the immigrants in this country. Okay, yes, sir.
I have two questions, Congressman. First, Jaime, could you describe, you spent 6 months there, could you describe your day-to-day, what you were feeling, what you were thinking during your time there?
So I was stuck in Mexico for 6 months. The day-to-day was just basically just be at the house, at my uncle's house. Then I finally got the opportunity to start working over there, so it was just basically work, home, so my mind wouldn't be at home just thinking of the worst things could happen. Yeah, it was sad, it was hard, because seeing through the phone is not the same thing as seeing them in person, so yeah, it was really difficult.
And Congressman, my second question, you kind of touched on it. I was going to ask you, how rare is this, and how did the Biden administration, specifically, what was their role and their importance to getting this through?
Well, let me give you a very broad answer, because some of the things that we accomplished were accomplished at a somewhat of a personal level. I'm going to put it that way. But generally speaking, this is unique in that we have a baby that's 1 year old, and we have a father that was barred from the country because he was 7 at the time he left after having come to the country undocumented. There are others that are similarly situated, and they too merit consideration. But this consideration is discretionary. This is not that's mandatory. If you prove certain things, it's mandatory. It's discretionary. So you have to make your case, and it's not an easy case to make, which is why we have these 2 pieces of legislation pending, hopefully to help the other Jaimes that are still hoping that they too will get some sort of relief. One of the bills that we filed was specifically for Jaime, to help him out of this circumstance, to extricate him. The other is to deal with other persons who are situated similarly so that they too might get some relief. But I would want the lawyer to give an additional comment on this because she handles these kinds of cases and probably has a breadth of knowledge about it that I cannot call to your attention. So, Attorney Salim, if you would.
Yes, how he described it is exactly the way it is. It's discretionary. It's not something that the law says that if you meet certain requirements, you're going to get a humanitarian parole. So we need to prove to the government that this family will suffer hardship if they're not reunited. The remarkable thing this time was an average time that it will take for humanitarian parole to be approved is about a year, sometimes longer, unless there are pressing circumstances with, like an illness or a death or imminent death in the family. So we were able to get that humanitarian parole approved in 2 months, and that was only because Congressman Al Green was so persistent, and he spoke at the Congress. He used all his resources to make this happen, and it did happen in a record amount of time, which was 2 months.
Yes, please.
¿Puede explicar en español el beneficio migratorio que obtuvo y cómo lo obtuvo? Y la segunda pregunta es, en su práctica diaria, ¿esto le puede traer alguna esperanza para otras personas que estén pasando por lo mismo?
Sí, muy buena pregunta. Bueno, voy a empezar explicando lo que le pudieron conceder a Jaime, que es un paro humanitario. Este paro humanitario es cuando tú le pides al gobierno que utilice su discreción para dejar a una persona entrar a los Estados Unidos cuando por ningún otro mecanismo pudiese entrar a los Estados Unidos. Este es el único mecanismo que podríamos utilizar porque Jaime tiene un castigo de 10 años. Para este castigo no hay ningún perdón, así que él tendría que esperar 10 años fuera de los Estados Unidos, separado de su familia, si no fuera porque le dieron este parol humanitario. El parol humanitario le da autorización a Jaime a que esté aquí en los Estados Unidos por 2 años. También nos permite pedirle un permiso de trabajo, seguir renovando su licencia de conducir y tener una vida casi normal aquí en los Estados Unidos. No es una solución permanente, pero es una solución muy buena por el momento. ¿Cuál era la segunda pregunta?
En la práctica, ¿hay más casos que usted ha visto que este caso les traiga esperanza a ellos?
Claro que sí. En la práctica vemos que muchísimas personas se quedan fuera de los Estados Unidos por esta precisa razón, porque en algún momento salieron fuera del país y adquirieron una información equivocada por parte de algún abogado, quizás un notario, que valga la aclaración. Esta familia llega a mí cuando ya él está fuera, que no se confunda que yo no les di la asesoría al principio del caso, pero muchas veces pasa que no tienen una buena asesoría o la asesoría adecuada y se quedan fuera del país. Y este es un mecanismo que podrían utilizar si están fuera del país sin ningún otro remedio. Sí se les podría pedir al gobierno un parol humanitario. Ahora bien, esto, como muy bien dijimos al principio, no es algo que sea por ley. Así que se tiene que ver caso a caso y poderle demostrar al gobierno que esta persona se merece entrar a los Estados Unidos antes de estos 10 años.
Okay. Moving on around to my right. Yes, ma'am.
Esa asesoría, ¿nos podría explicar qué fue esa asesoría y quizás este caso se podría haber evitado?
Okay. Congressman would like for me to translate the question. So she's asking me what was the legal advice that they received when they left the country. En realidad, para una persona que está en los Estados Unidos sin una entrada legal o otros mecanismos como la 245I, tienen que salir fuera del país como el último paso para poder adquirir residencia permanente si un familiar los pide para hacerse residentes permanentes. Esto se llama el proceso consular. Pues el último paso es salir al consulado a una entrevista. Cuando van a esa entrevista, ahí el consulado va a verificar si esta persona tiene algún tipo de castigos, delitos, etcétera. En el caso de Jaime no habían delitos, pero encontraron esa salida a los 7 años. ¿Qué yo hubiese hecho diferente? Pues en este caso, como él tiene DACA, es una de las cosas que nosotros le podemos recomendar a los DACAs, es que pueden viajar. Y si viajan y entran legalmente, ya pueden estar aquí en los Estados Unidos arreglando su estatus migratorio. Pero los DACAs no pueden viajar por cualquier razón. tienen que tener razones humanitarias o de trabajo o de estudios para poder hacer ese viaje y luego tener esa entrada legal. Así que esto es una de las cosas que se pudo haber hecho. Otra cosa que se pudo haber hecho era poder investigar todo el caso. El caso de Jaime es un poquito particular porque habían unas situaciones que ni siquiera Jaime sabía, así que era difícil poderle decir a su asesor legal. Pero en la mayoría de los casos, pues esa sería la recomendación para las personas que nos están viendo, que no omitan ningún detalle, que le digan todo a su asesor legal, específicamente que busquen un abogado de inmigración con experiencia para que esto no vuelva a suceder. Ahora lo voy a traducir si recuerdo todo lo que estaba diciendo. Yeah. So what I was explaining is that for Jaime's situation, the thing is that he omitted one detail just because he didn't know that detail. But the other way that he could have adjusted his status here in the U.S. was traveling with advance parole, using his DACA and coming legally to the United States so that he could obtain adjustment of status instead of doing consular process. That's something that I would advise all DACAs out there listening to us to do. If you have an opportunity to get an advance parole, you can get an advance parole for humanitarian reasons, for work or study, and that's, I would say, do not think about it, just do it. Come here legally, and that will open a lot of doors for you to adjust your status here in the United States.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a question about what happens next. You talked about reform, Congressman Green, and the attorney also talked about how there's a long road ahead. What does that look like? Will reform help? What needs to be done when the 2 years is up, essentially?
Okay, let's start, if you would, in
Okay.
English.
Okay. So there's a section in the INA, 212A9C, that will prevent anyone who was here for a year or longer, leaves the country, and comes back illegally to become a permanent resident. They need to be 10 years outside of the U.S. So that's the section of the law that we need to change. And that's the bill that Congressman Al Green introduced in Congress. So that's the part of the law that we need to change for Jaime to become a permanent resident, or a lot of people in the same circumstances as Jaime. That would be the short answer. Hay una parte en la ley de inmigración que dice que si una persona está en los Estados Unidos viviendo por más de un año sin documentos, sale del país y vuelve a entrar sin un documento o ilegalmente, le podríamos decir, esa persona no puede arreglar su estatus en los Estados Unidos, no puede ser un residente permanente por 10 años, tendrían que estar 10 años fuera. Y eso es lo que necesitamos cambiar. Esa sección de la ley que dice eso es exactamente la ley que introdujo el congresista Al Green al Congreso. Si eso cambia, entonces no solo Jaime podría verse beneficiado, sino que miles de personas podrían verse beneficiados, que por la única razón por la que no son residentes permanentes, teniendo esposos o esposas ciudadanos americanos, es la única manera en que podrían hacerse residentes permanentes y eventualmente ciudadanos americanos.
And I'll add this, that I agree that we need to do what we can to help persons who are situated such as Jaime, but it's really bigger than this. We have millions of people who are here, and they are undocumented. We cannot have a first-class country if we're going to have second-class citizens. In this, the greatest country, richest country in the world, the country that I love dearly, I wear the flag, salute the flag, sing the national anthem, say the Pledge of Allegiance. In this country, we need to resolve this issue, the broader issue, because there are many kids, young people, who are dreamers, and they want to adjust their status. And you have persons who are not. They're the mothers and fathers of dreamers, and they need to have their status adjusted. So we should do not just the right thing as we've done with Jaime, we need to do the righteous thing and take up comprehensive immigration reform in toto, so that we can have persons who are in this country working hard every day, doing no harm, helping us immensely, paying into the tax base of the country. They deserve an opportunity to move forward in a very constructive way, showing certain things that are important to us, and become citizens in this country. And that's what I'll be fighting for in the Congress of the United States of America. Any other questions, please? Well, thank you, members of the press. You probably noticed that we recognize that this is a polyglot society. Persons speak multiple languages. And we wanted to let people feel comfortable who are in our country, speak a different language. We want them to understand what's happening here today because it impacts them. But equally as important, it's important for people around the world to know that we have grown to the point that we respect people and their cultures. America the Beautiful is a more beautiful America because of the various cultures that we have, the various languages that are spoken. All of these things make America the great country that it is. And we want people to recognize that we understand this, that it's not just about one subset of our society, that it's about all of this integrated together. And diversity is important in all aspects of the American society. Thank you very much.
They wanted to see the flowers.
These are flowers that were presented to me, and I'm grateful to the family. A similar bouquet was presented to the
Beautiful.
lawyer, and we want them to know that this was a labor of love for us. It was a labor of love. I have made new friends as a result, and it's something that I'll carry with me the rest of my life, especially the motherly hug that I received. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Okay. You go back to my office? Go back to my office? Yes.
Yeah, she turned on the heater instead of the AC.
I tried to turn the AC on. And
Really?
honestly, it is not
Working.
You know, I felt